Thank you very much, Fiona. A very good evening. It's Sunny and Shay here on BBC Radio London. We're here with you tonight until 8 o'clock. Coming up after 7, we're going to be joined in the studio by singer and songwriter Brooke Law, and she'll be talking to us about her brand new single, which has already been placed 8th on Tidal's Weekend Waves playlist. But before that, we're continuing our discussion tonight with regards to body confidence, especially amongst men. So if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can give us a call this evening.
The number is 0800 731 2000. But if you can't pick up the phone and call us today because you're getting ready for work or getting the kids ready for school, you can also send us an email with your experiences if you know someone who's going through this at the moment. The email address is sunnyandshay@bbc.co.uk.
So we're joined first in the studio with Tom Quinn, who's the Director of External Affairs at Beat, which is the UK's eating disorder charity. And we're also joined in the studio by personal trainer and amateur boxer Gabbar Singh, alongside ex-military and personal trainer Darshana Kulkarnat. Have I said your surname correctly?
Darshana Kulkarnat.
Oh, I tried. Kulkarnat. Lovely surname.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. We'll start off with yourself, Tom. How important is it for us to be talking about eating disorders amongst men and young boys specifically? Because we heard from Dr. Sandeep, who said that actually it's now in 2018 we're hearing more from young men and their perspectives on eating disorders, which maybe in the past we didn't really hear about.
It's really important. So there is this stereotype that eating disorders only affect women. That's absolutely wrong. And actually raising awareness that it is an issue is so important, because at every stage of the illness, we know that it takes longer for boys and males to seek help. Mm-hmm. It takes longer for them to for the illness to be noticed by others in them, and actually it takes them longer once they get to the GP. So actually it's really important that we raise awareness, we reduce stigma. I think unfortunately there is still more stigma amongst males with eating disorders rather than females. Mm-hmm. So we need to tackle that. We need to make sure that, no matter who you are, that help's available for you.
Now, can I ask you, what are the symptoms individuals themselves who probably don't realise they have an eating disorder, they're just thinking, I'm on a diet or whatever it is, or family members or friends around them, what are they looking for? What are the symptoms of this illness?
Well, I think the first point to stress is that actually changing in your body shape comes very late.
Right.
So don't look for someone, say, losing weight and think, actually, things come a lot sooner. So what you're looking for is perhaps if individuals are becoming socially withdrawn, particularly around mealtime. So if they're acting strangely around food, that can be a good indicator.
Okay.
We do know that that purging, so making yourself sick, is unfortunately more common amongst the Asian community, people that are suffering from eating disorders, than the white community. So actually that's another sign. So if people perhaps after a family meal are going away to the loo quite a lot, that can be a sign to look out for.
Why is that? I'm intrigued by that. Why is that more common within the South Asian community than the white community? Do we have any reasons behind that? Do we know?
Research is limited, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I think one possibility could be because there's a real sense of community amongst the South Asian community, and so eating together as a family is pretty common. Mm-hmm. So I think perhaps it's harder for people from that community to perhaps get away without eating. So actually they are struggling. Yeah. They will still eat with the family, but then they may go away afterwards, go to the loo, make themselves sick, and actually they'll suffer in that way with their eating disorder.
Something really important to say here, and then we're bringing in our other studio guests as well, is that there is a real myth, and we've heard about this in social media, and I must say, I think it's great. Eating disorders have kind of created a fact sheet of the myths and the facts behind it. And one that I was really intrigued by was that it says, one of the myths we've often heard is you can tell just by looking at someone if they have an eating disorder. And the reason I was so taken back by that one is because growing up for myself, often my parents had to deal with many family members looking at me thinking I had an eating disorder because I was abnormally tall and very skinny. However, I just had a very high metabolism, and I was branded by family members, not external, but family members, as being anorexic. But my doctor said I was absolutely fine. They just said, well, she's just having a growth spurt. But what you actually identify in this is that you can't just tell by looking at someone that they have an eating disorder. Eating disorders are mental illnesses. Is that something that we don't discuss enough or know about?
I think that's absolutely right, that we need to understand that eating disorders are mental illnesses, they're not physical illnesses. Now, they will have physical consequences, but as I said earlier, those will often come much later.
Right.
So even if you're restricting, if you are someone perhaps suffering from anorexia, so you are reducing the amount of food you eat, by the time you're noticeably thinner, actually the illness will have become much more ingrained and much harder to treat.
Right.
Early intervention amongst eating disorders is so important. Actually, you need to get help quickly. And if you've got another type of eating disorder, such as bulimia, and bulimia is where you actually binge, so you eat more and then you purge. So, for example, throwing up. And so with that illness, you may not actually lose weight at all.
Wow.
But you'll still be incredibly ill, having very negative thoughts, risk of suicide is much higher. So actually, it's really important that whatever eating disorder you have, you get that early help.
So when can people identify themselves to saying, I'm on a diet, or someone is on a diet, but to disguise this illness? Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I can't eat that because I'm actually on this diet or this carb diet, no-thing diet. And therefore, they can mask it through all these other implements, tools. And then they're looking better for it because everyone, as soon as someone loses weight, they get more compliments. Straight away, oh, look, you look amazing. And so it's reinforcing what they're doing and validating them. So how do you find that balance? And do I think dietitians and, sorry, not dietitians, dietary, magazines where they're saying this is a diet, this is a celebrity diet, have some, I guess, responsibility to be conscious about this could trigger a mental illness?
I think you said the right word there. We talked about balance.
Yes.
And I think we can see, if you're exercising in moderation and you're eating healthily, I think that's okay.
Right.
The problems are when these become to excess. So we haven't actually talked about exercise, but actually sometimes with people with eating disorders, they will exercise to excess.
Right.
And so actually it's really important that if people are working with, in the fitness industry, they're also able to spot some of
those
these
elements.
signs.
A perfect segue, I've got to say, as a presenter,
It's almost like
bring
Tom's
in
read
our
our
guests.
script.
Exactly. To bring in our other studio guests, we've got Gabbar and Darshana. Let's start with yourself, Gabbar. You're a personal trainer, amateur boxer. Do you come across this, where you'll meet young lads and you can tell that actually it's more than just them wanting to get fit? There is perhaps an eating disorder or something that maybe they feel more comfortable talking to yourself about that they may not talk to family members?
Yes, definitely. I've got to say it's a much bigger topic now than in the past. A lot of our past clients and even present clients, as you're training them, you can tell just by the way they act. They're talking about them going out, how they're being. They're not very confident, they have low self-esteem. A lot of them, they talk to you very openly after a while. Things like one of the biggest offenders in men are man boobs or having the little lower gut.
Right,
So
I've got both of those. And I show it off.
It's more like I would say a very Punjabi
honor
kind
for
of
me.
trait as well, isn't it? We always, Sunny and I always talk about, when you look at Punjabi men, they always have it around their gut, like the belly area.
It is 100%, but a lot of it comes down again to diet. So if you're used to eating the Punjabi food, what you're used to having, the curries at home, enjoying yourself, having the alcohol, what goes hand in hand, it's not going to be great. You're not going to look great.
So here's, I guess, at what point do you start blaming genetics? A lot of people say, oh, you know what, my family, we got big boned and all of that. And then they hide behind that. And then when they do make a difference, they go too far to like you said, over excessing, exercising. Do you have individuals who are trying to get rid of, just get fit, but then you see them more often than you should? Oh,
yes, 100%. And touching on genetics as well, 100%. You get people that find it very hard to lose weight and others very hard to put on weight. My two older brothers, all our lives, I've always suffered myself from body confidence.
Okay.
I've always been overweight. My two older brothers could eat everything and anything and they can't put on weight.
Right.
And from a very young age, I've always been very jealous because I couldn't be slim. I'm very restricted on what I eat. I was very cautious of what I was eating, but I just literally had a gut all the time. I'm very jealous, but I won't swear because I'm on air.
Yes, but it's funny how it affects your surroundings. Darshana, what's your perspective on this as a personal trainer as well?
To be honest with you, I agree with what Gabbar been saying. So when I was in the army, there's a big thing in the army, like suck it up. Anything what you got, just suck it up. You never talk in there. And so I had lads coming up to me saying, I can't lose weight here. Help me, because I was a PT in there as well. And so the guys who will come up and then they will kind of not eat to lose weight. They will go extreme, or they will literally go extreme to lose weight, to fit into the job, to fit into do what you have to do.
Right.
And and going in from there, coming out from the army, and I still find many people like coming into me saying like I eat this much, I eat this. I have few South Asian background clients, and they telling me, oh, I eat this much. So the problem here is like, even back in my country, we used to eat quite a lot. Like but eating in there, and we still do quite a lot of physical work.
Right.
What happened in the modern society is we have moved away from that. We use the public transport a lot, sitting down quite a lot.
But also the diet is as well. It's more processed, isn't it? And
it's a lot of process.
Yeah.
It's a lot of processed stuff going in inside us, rather than going into fresh bio products, bio vegetables, stuff like that. And that amount of physical activity what we do have gone down.
Yeah.
But amount of calories.
So can I ask you, how many of your clients, and I ask you, both of you guys, are still on, when they're not training, they're checking themselves, selfies and, social media platforms where their idols might be a influencer. They're called influencers, aren't they? The guys who have a lot of followers and likes, and what you see is them with their perfect bodies and what have you. So I'm going to let you think about that, and answer that when you think you got the right answer for that, because I want you to just pick up on this after the news and travel, because I think influencers have a big responsibility. And also Tony,
alongside that, we've had Shavek and Altham get in touch, and he says, Sunny and Shay, a big part of this issue, regulation is part of the answer to eating disorders. So we'll pick up, but if you'd like to give us your thoughts tonight, 0800 731 2000. Right now though, it is 6:30. Let's get the news headlines with Nigel Bidmead, followed by traffic and travel with Fiona McKinnon.
Shay, thank you. EU leaders have approved the Brexit withdrawal agreement and warned MPs in Britain that it's the best and only deal available. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel described it as a diplomatic work of art. Theresa May has urged Parliament to back the agreement. The President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, said this was a sad day. It's being reported that nearly 800 prisoners have been pardoned in the United Arab Emirates ahead of the country's National Day. It's not clear whether the British academic jailed in the Gulf State last week, Matthew Hedges, is among those to be freed. Documents believed to contain details of Facebook's data privacy policies have reportedly been seized at a hotel in London. Damien Collins, who's the chair of the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee, told the Observer newspaper he believed the documents included information about Facebook's relationship with developers such as Cambridge Analytica. London's weather, some clear intervals to come through this evening. Many places remaining dry, but there will be one or two showers. Top temperature 8 degrees Celsius, that's 44 Fahrenheit. Now with the BBC Radio London travel, here's Fiona.
Thanks very much. BBC Radio London travel. Here's the latest, and taking a look at the roads. First of all, in Kensington, the High Street is blocked both ways by Kensington Church Street after a recent accident. Further in, the Strand underpass is closed northbound at Aldwych. That's for emergency repairs, with delays stretching back over Waterloo Bridge to the IMAX roundabout. And Greenwich, on my camera, very slow for the A102 northbound from the Woolwich Road flyover to the Blackwall Tunnel. That's after an accident which happened earlier on. And across to Redbridge, still a little bit slow for the A406 northbound from the A13 up towards the Redbridge roundabout after a previous accident. The M11 is partly blocked southbound at Junction 9 at Saffron Walden after collision, and the M1 northbound between Junction 10 and 11 has one lane closed still after an accident. To update us on 0800 731 2000 or drop us a tweet at BBC Travel Alert. With the trains, southern services are reduced between Victoria and Dorking. Fiona McKinnon, BBC Radio London. Next update in 15 minutes.
BBC Radio London.
Whilst Drive Time Monday to Friday brings you what's happening in the news for London, I've got some news of my own. And this Monday I'll be starting an hour later from 5 o'clock. We'll still get the full 3 hours together, you and I.
Good evening, hi Eddie.
Covering those stories and discussing those issues as we always have.
Still, people don't really know what's going to happen.
We'll finish up a little later at 8, ready to hand you over to the new kids on the scene. It'll be the best warm-up act they could ever imagine. That's Drive Time with me, Eddie Nestor, at a new time of 5 o'clock from this Monday.
BBC Radio London.
And a very good afternoon. It's Sunny and Shay. It's 6:33, and we're very much looking forward to, it must be said as well, meeting with and talking to some of our new scheme, the Scene presenters. The Scene presenters. Now, if you're just tuning into the show, well, tonight we're having a very important discussion about eating disorders. A new report has seen that the number of boys being treated in hospital with eating disorders is at its highest level. New figures seen by BBC Newsround show that there have been twice as many NHS admissions in England, Wales and Scotland in 2018 than there were in 2010. And if you're just tuning into the show, well, we've been finding out and delving into exactly why with our studio guests. We've been speaking firstly to Tom Quinn, who is the Director of External Affairs at BEAT, which is the UK's eating disorder and charity. Also been speaking to Gabbar Singh and Darshana, who are both personal trainers, about their perspectives on the ground when the individuals with the clients that they're meeting with. But I wanted to pick up on Shavek's text. Shavek said, Sunny and Shay, regulation is a part of the answer to eating disorders. The Mayor of London and TfL's ban on advertising of food high in sugar, fat and salt will actually make people think more carefully about what they advertise and what they eat. Do you agree with that, Tom?
Well, I think it's important to make a distinction between the importance of healthy eating and avoiding foods that might be high in sugar and eating disorders. So I don't want us to sort of equate the two together. I think actually the way that you tackle eating disorders is much more, as I was saying earlier, about sort of early intervention, about making sure that there is reduced stigma, more awareness, so that people know where to go for help and how to get that help. I do think we need to think about the type of imagery that we have. I think actually thinking about the tubes, actually some of those imaging of scantily clad women or guys men, just with their six pack showing. Yeah. I think actually that's probably a bigger contribution to eating disorders than say adverts about particular types of food.
And this imagery is all about normalising the normal body, right? And I would say I have an average body for a 33-year-old, and I'm quite proud of my body. I mean,
43-year-old.
43-year-old. Well done, Shay. She's keeping an eye on my date.
I am.
So as a 40-year-old man in the 40s, I think I'm doing quite well, and I'm not affected by what's going on. But then I do realise at some point, comments like my wife just made, you're 42, you could look better than that guy over there. I mean, look at, these actors and all of these guys, and we see how they get into their roles. How much responsibility, I guess, is it for, media and also these individuals when they are posting these pictures of them transforming their body in 6 weeks, which I can't say it can be healthy, from looking a certain way to a certain way just for a movie role?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we have a more diverse set of role models. Right. That actually we see that, these are one type of body. Yes. Let's remember they're often airbrushed in magazines, but actually the human body takes many forms, and it's beautiful in all those forms. And I think actually as a society, with no disrespect to our personal trainers,
yeah, exactly, who are sculpturing people's bodies.
I think there is a difference between sort of eating and living and being healthy, and I think the obsession that unfortunately some young men can be prone to, and I think it's really important that we have that distinction.
Now, I was asking you the questions about influencers, and also the same thing about these images that individuals are coming to you and saying, look, I want to look like The Rock, I want to look like I guess, I don't know, the Hulk or whatever. So when you look at these kind of aspirations for these young men and women, I guess, to saying that I want to look a certain way, do you look at them seriously and think, yeah, we can achieve that, but how do you then tell them that it's a balance that you need to do it? It's not going to happen in 6 weeks.
It's very hard because a lot of clients, they want it literally next week.
Yeah,
Tom was just touching himself as well, talking about we need better role models. 100% we need better role models. Looking at social media, it's so easily accessible. Mm-hmm. Social media is great, but at the same time, we've got to use it in moderation and balance for what we want it for. Right. People look at it, and we've got to remember so much of it is photoshopped, airbrushed. Yeah. And it's not really healthy to look the way they do, because a lot of fitness instructors, personal trainers, people who compete and go on stage, they go on very strict diets. They train extremely hard, like 2-3 times a day even. It's not very healthy for your body. So people who look at this, not knowing what they actually go through, and then just say, we want to look like this. Gabba, if they can do it in 6 weeks, we got 3 months, we're going to get married, we want to look like this.
Yeah.
It never helps, but it's obviously everything in moderation.
Yeah.
It's hard because everything is so easily accessible, and you want to say, I want to look like this guy. Define muscles. Look at this guy. He looks so toned. It's not as easy as it looks. It's so much harder. Everything in moderation.
Who do you think is doing it well to show that balance of their life? Because I can think of one person who I follow because I like him as an actor and I like him as a person, his philosophy. So who's that one person that you think on Instagram, on these social platforms, who's showing that balance, saying, listen, for me to look like this is what I'm doing. And this is a full-time job. This isn't me just looking good so I can take a picture on Instagram or look good in my pictures. This is my job. Who does that well, you think, on the social media platforms that is a good role model for people who want to look like a certain way? I have one person in my mind. It's the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Do you know what I was just thinking? The only person I can think in my head, his training is Dwayne Johnson. But apart from that, the boxer, Anthony Joshua, professional boxer, lovely guy, very humble. He's down to earth. He shows his training regime exactly what he does. He does it in moderation, and he looks fantastic. Great.
So is it those are the kind of role models that we need, just to show how much work goes into it as well?
There's another element to this, Darshana, which is what Tom was talking about in terms of identifying an eating disorder. It's very different to maybe wanting to stay physically fit, or wanting to have a particular body physique. This is a mental health illness, and maybe at times it's not identified as such. We started the show talking to Dr. Sandeep Ranot, who said that actually within South Asian communities we don't discuss it enough. What's your perspective on that? Do you agree with that? Do you see that with clients that you are constantly training? What's your general perspective?
I do agree with that one because the way we taking my parents, the way they approach their own children, it's a different way. It's we haven't had much time to talk about things like that. They come home, ask them, have you done the homework, have you done all that stuff. They never have this much of time. They sit down and eat the dinner, and then that's pretty much it, and then talk about what happened the day. That's pretty much it. And I believe that's probably the common way what's happening right now, even probably less time, because I know some parents just like 2 jobs. They don't see their kids at all. So how they're gonna have the time to talk about these kind of issues? So these kind of things get under the carpet easily and get worse. So it turn into a mental problem. It starts very small, turn into a mental issue at the end, and so things like this is better sorted at the starting stage with better communication.
You agree with him, Tom, don't you?
Better communication, always.
Absolutely. As I was saying earlier, early intervention is so important. So it's really important that friends and family are able to sort of spot the illness quickly and have a conversation with that person. I know sometimes people can feel a bit nervous about speaking to others, almost always, a conversation is just a good place to start, and it will help on that process, that road to recovery.
When you were younger, Gabbar, and you were looking at your brothers, and you were saying, "Oh, look at them! I'm not looking like them. I have to look at my health more," and all that kind of stuff. At that point, did you ever think there was something wrong with you? Did you ever discuss those concerns of yours and your body because you were comparing yourself to your brothers, to your mum or your brothers or anyone?
Do you know what? It never helped, especially in little occasions. Things like going to parties.
Yes.
Going out to the park. I remember an occasion when my brothers took their tops off, and my mum said, "Gabbar, don't take your top off." And I'm like, "Whoa!" Okay. It's psychologically not thinking, but it literally planted a seed in my head, and it's more like, I don't know if to call it an Asian thing or what, but certain things you hear, it causes a mental illness. It actually causes you to have problems at a very young age.
You start already noticing that, if my mum is telling me, listen, don't take your top off right now, she's trying to protect you, I guess. You might get picked on, they might say, kids can be cruel.
100%.
So that's what she's doing, trying to protect you, but inadvertently, she's just planted something in your head.
I remember being with him as young as 10 years old in the swimming pool, having a big round belly, having literally man boobs, long hair, and subconsciously I'm looking at people looking at me, and I'm thinking in my head, are these guys looking at me because they think this is a girl and she ain't got a bikini on?
Right.
And it caused a problem in my head. It actually does. From a
and
very
when did
young
it turn around for you when you realised that, I want to get healthy, and it didn't fall too far to being unhealthy and mentally as well?
It was apart from that, but also my dad pushed me and my brothers into boxing at a very young age.
Okay.
At the time I hated it, but I'm thinking for it now. That changed my life. It literally turned me around.
With that, though, as much as you focus on the boxing, did you at any point, I've got to ask you, Gabbar, and we'll also ask Darshana as well, did you at any point think about your mind and your mental health?
Yeah.
Because, again, it sounds like the physical aspect of this, but did you ever think about your thoughts and how you were feeling about it and, how conscious you were?
Honestly, from the start, I didn't know. It was all about looking good. It was all about how people perceive you from the outside.
Okay.
Literally, nothing was from within. Now, I'm in a happy place in my life. I think more about being happy from within than, literally what really counts. But at the time, it was all about looking good from the outside.
And now, are you happy with where you are physically?
To be honest,
and mentally, well, you're already mentally quite happy. You just said, I'm in a really good place.
No, at the moment, I concentrate on other things like a bit of meditation, a bit of yoga. I do other things for my peace of mind, not just to look good on the outside.
That's the other element, isn't it? In terms of what you just said, focusing about your mind. What's your perspective on that, Darshana?
Yeah, I think mental health, mental peace, peaceful in mentally as well as physically, that both goes together.
Mm-hmm.
These things has to be balanced. So you can't just be physically all healthy when you're mentally ill. It's just still you have something wrong.
It will affect you either way.
It'll affect the physical health right away. So you have to have both 50-50 on the both hand. And so what I try to promote every time, I'm not trying to promote all this Greek god body or anything like that. I'm trying to promote the journey that to get to a healthy mind and healthy body, that both comes with the journey, and the end result is right there with the journey. So the journey is the most important part, what I try to promote, that the healthy mind with the healthy body.
I like that. Healthy mind, healthy body. That is a strapline for a T-shirt. We're going to come back and have a chat with the guys and find out also about what we can be doing more to help young boys, because a lot of this is very much perhaps when you're training adults, but to start off at that earlier stage. If you'd like to weigh in on this conversation tonight, it's 0800 731 2000. Right now, though, let's get traffic and travel with Fiona McKinnon.
Thank you, BBC Radio London Travel. Here's the latest. Taking a look at the roads in Kensington. The High Street is blocked both ways by Kensington Church Street after a collision. And a reminder that the Strand Underpass is closed northbound at Aldwych. That's for emergency repairs. So there are delays back over Waterloo Bridge to the IMAX roundabout. Greenwich still slow for the A102 northbound from the Woolwich Road flyover to the Blackwall Tunnel after an accident which happened earlier on. And Herne Hill Railton Road is closed both ways between Shakespeare Road and Mail Road. That's after water main burst earlier on. Across to the A13 eastbound, we have reports of an accident just after the Beckton roundabout and the A406. If you're aware of this and it's safe to do so, give us a call on 0800 731 2000 or drop us a tweet at BBC Travellet. Redbridge looking better for the A406 northbound between Ilford and the Redbridge roundabout after a previous collision, and slow still for the M11 northbound between junctions 6 and 7 after an accident. The M11 southbound is also partly blocked at junction 9 after a collision there, and the M1 northbound has one lane closed between junction 10 and 11 because of a collision. Fiona McKinnon, BBC Radio London. Next update is just before 7.
Welcome back to BBC Radio London. More from Fiona in about 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Now, we are having quite an important discussion tonight. We've been speaking about body confidence, body dysmorphia amongst men, and more importantly, young boys. The reason for that is because a new report has seen the number of boys being treated in hospital with eating disorders is at its highest ever. And we're still joined in the studio by Tom Quinn, who's Director of External Affairs at Beat. Now, Beat is the UK's eating disorder charity. Also, we've been speaking tonight with amateur boxer, personal trainer Gabbar Singh and ex-military and personal trainer Darshana. Tell me your last name one more time. Kularatna. I got it right. I was practicing. Darshana Kularatna. Now, we wanted to ask you the impact of social media. Darshana, off air, you were talking very much about a blog that you've come across on the Beats actual website. What was it that you wanted to mention regarding social media?
Yeah, I think Tom will give more details about Priyesh. I found him on the Beat website itself. He wrote a blog about himself, about how he got rid of from his bulimia conditions and low self-esteem he had. He say on his own words, he say about social media here, and social media didn't help him. So he says, you open your phone and you see perfect everywhere, he says, and you look in the mirror, you don't feel quite the same. That's his words. So I think that like Gabbar said, like Tom said, there's a certain elements in social media which affects the little young men, young boys. They have the phones in their hands now. I never had a phone when I was a kid. When I was young.
had dial-up when I wanted to see a picture. Took 20 minutes, and I just got the quiff of Elvis's hair, and that's like 10 minutes later, and then someone called. Right? Can you imagine? Then it just started all over again. So they live in a good age, and that's the problem. That's what you're saying.
That's the problem. And the thing is, they haven't been educated enough to handle these kind of situations. So they just see something and then they think that's it.
Yeah.
That's what we need to look like.
A question I've got to ask you then, Tom, in terms of what Darshana is reflecting upon there, is this also a responsibility not just for parents? Because earlier on, Darshana and Gabbar were talking about how busy our lifestyles are, parents working so many jobs. Is this not a responsibility to a certain degree for schools? Why are we not having these kind of open discussions about impact of social media or education around how children should be dealing with social media at schools? We've got a 11-year-old niece who has a phone, who she is at the moment not on social media, but I'm sure within the next year or two she will be. So how is that not?
How do you prepare them?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we are doing lots of training now with schools.
Okay.
Particularly focused on eating disorders, so to help them spot some of those signs and have those conversations with some of those young people. In terms of social media, I think we all have a role to play, actually. I think parents have to be aware of how much time their children are spending on social media. I think schools need to do some of this education work about increasing awareness that actually this isn't real.
It's fake.
This is a fake.
It's like a movie.
Exactly. Yeah. But I actually think that social media organisations have a role to play with this as well. So I'm not saying that we should bring about punishments on the people that are posting, because actually sometimes people that are posting imagery that might be unhelpful themselves might be ill. They might themselves have an eating disorder. So we need to
do we need the government to step in at some point? Because Shavek says that. I think we need some kind of guidelines on how and this stage.
I'd say so. I think we should have much clearer guidance on what sort of imagery should be posted and what should come with a health warning, and actually have really clear guidance to say, if you're struggling, if you think you might have an eating disorder, here are some organisations that you can speak to. Go and see your GP. We need to make sure that if people are struggling, they know where to go for help.
How do you do it if you are a parent then? If you are not sure, like something I mentioned it earlier on, I was very lucky that my father had studied medicine. So when all of the family were saying this about me, my dad used to laugh it off and said, she's fine. But I remember my mother was very conscious. She would give me baggy clothes when we were going to see certain family members, because she knew the first thing they'd comment on was, you're not feeding her. Hi, kurikini patliya. She's not eating. How do you then, as a parent, try to protect your child, as Gabbar was just talking about his experience with his mum, but then also have a really serious conversation and find out if the child's mental health, well-being is in the right path, or as much as it possibly can be?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, where you talk about the mental side rather than the physical side. So I think if parents are concerned about their children, it's probably less helpful to say, oh, I've noticed you're eating less or you're eating more or whatever, but actually ask them about their feelings. How are you doing? How are you feeling at the moment? And then use that as a way to open the conversation.
I've got to ask Gabbar, if you don't mind. I mean, I'm not trying to delve too much, but how was it? Was that easier? Because I know earlier on we were talking, Sunny and I, sometimes within South Asian communities, Darshana said it earlier on, we put things under the carpet. We don't really talk about feelings, do we?
We don't. A lot of it, we literally plant the sign there, the seed in our head. We remember it, and it does affect us long term. And
have you now, later on in life, had those discussions with family members then?
I have, but at the time, Mum just laughs about it. They don't really know. They're not well enough educated to talk about it, so they laugh about it, to be honest.
So, but with laughing it off, does it now make you more conscious that moving forward, when you have either nieces and nephews or children of your own, that you would like to have those discussions?
Yes, it does, but a lot of it comes down to being self-confident yourself.
Yes.
Because once you become more confident, you realise you're a stronger person, so you can get over it a lot easier.
Yes.
And also, when you post stuff on your social media, I mean, there's that post that you put up about, you let yourself go over a period of time in a couple of months, October to December, and then you just look like me, right?
Yeah.
And then you worked really hard, and by March you got into your physical, your fighting weight, I guess it is, because that's your job, right? So you have to look a certain way and you have to be healthy. So all of those kind of posts, are you more conscious about how you then relay those information and those pictures of yourself looking like an Adonis?
100%. I've got to be very cautious about what I post, because I know myself as being a role model. A lot of people watch what you do, so you'll watch what you say, and watch how you post and word things as well. I was pretty amazed. I did that in 3 months. I did it for charity. I put on weight just under 10 kg in 3 months, and I did it premeditatedly just to show people you can have anything you want in this world. If you want it bad enough, you can have what you want. But more than anything, you have to enjoy the process. You can't go on social media comparing yourself to these gym junkies, these fitness models saying, I want to look like that. You don't know what they're going through. So many times I've looked at them before I was a personal trainer myself, and I thought, I want to look like that. But talking to a lot of these people, they're not very healthy, a lot of them, and they don't feel great from within. They look just great outside.
For you, is moderation key then? What's the kind of message that you want to send out to people finally?
Literally, if you want to change your life, there's only one person who can change his life in this world. The only person who's going to change you is that person when you're looking in the mirror.
Nice.
And be moderate, so enjoy it as well, right?
100%. Balance is the key.
And is it important as well when you are looking in that mirror and looking at the person that you're looking at yourself and thinking, I can't cope anymore. I can't keep up with this life. And, and they're at that point where they're trying to make the change, but how do you get the right help for them to make that change as well? As much as physically you can go and see a personal trainer, but mentally, where do they go when they feel exhausted? They've done everything they can to be positive.
So the most important thing is just talk to someone. So find someone that you trust, find someone that you want to talk to. That might be a family member, could be a teacher. We have a helpline. It's open right now, 0808 801 0677. And we've got support on Instagram, Beat ED support. So there are options for people out there if they need that help.
With that as well, Darshana, what would you say, have you found maybe with clients that you are working with, do you often encourage them if you can tell that they're not in the right place mentally? Because you earlier on were talking about a healthy mind and a healthy body. Do you encourage them to go and seek out and get help, or do you think as a personal trainer that's not part of your job? What's your perspective?
Well, right now I'm working at Nuffield Health Moorgate, and I haven't come across any client that I felt like the person has an eating disorder or some sort of an issue. Right now I go through some clients, they like their food, they enjoy their food. I say enjoy your food. That's what you gotta do. But you gotta have the balance. I agree with Gabbar there. The balance is very important. So what I try to put it out there is, the body you have is the only body you got.
Exactly.
And that's
So
the
true.
only one.
Yes.
And whatever you put into it, it's just gonna whatever you put into it, you just gonna make it. If you put bad things into it, it's gonna look bad. If you put good things into it, it's gonna look good.
And also not only look, make you feel that way as well.
Make you feel good.
But yeah, exactly.
I agree.
And what about yourself? When you were younger, when did you realise that I need to look after this one body I've got? This is the only one I've got. When did you realise that you had to look after your body?
To be honest with you, when I was young, I started training athletics and stuff like that in school.
So it was in your system from day one.
In school, I got drilled in from day one. I was doing so much sports, so I was eating enough. When I
was it enough education around food and nutrition from where you were? Where were you educated? Sorry,
I had in my heart. I was in Sri Lanka when I was in
Sri
college,
Lanka, is it enough information nutritionally?
To be honest with you, yeah, balanced diet wise, they gave quite a lot of information.
Could we learn from Sri Lanka and the way that they teach their kids the same thing? We could imply that kind of information to the young people in this school as well.
To be honest, yes, the balanced diet is what they try to drill into you when you're a kid, on health science and everything else. So what I got from there is having a balanced diet, having enough carbohydrates in your meal, having protein, having
good
enough
habits
vegetables.
For life. That's what he's got, right? Good habits for life.
Enough greens in your daily diet. It's totally enough. to keep you sustained and keep you healthy and keep you energized.
Yeah, I like that, because I think this is something that I think we had
we used to have
famous
home technology classes,
home technology,
didn't we?
home economics, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Is that something that we need to do? You need to start going to the schools as well and talking about maybe educating kids around their food, as well as the mental health aspect of it as well.
I think some education around food is important, but yeah, I think you're right. The main focus still has to be about mental well-being. Ultimately, eating disorders are a coping mechanism. They're a coping mechanism for maybe low self-esteem, for anxiety, and we need to be able to tackle those issues. People, most of the time, body image can play a role, but actually people fall into an eating disorder because they're disaffected by life, because they're feeling low about other things. And so I think we really need to, as a society, be more open about mental health, encourage people to talk about it, so that actually we can get better and help people when they need it.
It's been such a pleasure having you all here tonight. And by the way, we've made some videos of what the guys have been saying, and that will be going up on our Instagram and on our Twitter. Gabbar and Darshana and Tom, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to follow the guys, I'm going to give you the details now. It's Beat ED Support on Instagram and Beat ED on Twitter. Gabbar Singh 83 on Instagram and Twitter. And then it's rising.fitness, so RIEZEN.fitness on Instagram. But we'll post all those details up again. If you'd like to weigh in on the conversation tonight, give us a call, 0800 731 2000. A big thanks again to Tom, to Gabbar and to Darshana for joining us tonight. Right now, though, let's get traffic and travel with Fiona McKinnon.